Well, I think for me, faith was really everything. My parents had accepted the Lord when I was about 2 years old, so I grew up in a house that, we went to church, we talked about Jesus at home, we prayed. I watched my parents minister to people in the community, and there was even times when I remember going out with them and the church and canvassing the neighborhood and talking to people and praying with people.
The role that faith played in my childhood is a very interesting answer. My parents, before I was born, were extremely motivated by their faith. They were missionaries in Africa and doing some really crazy, awesome things out in the Belgian Congo at the time. But by the time that I was born, my father had kind of really lost his faith and was wreaking a lot of havoc in the family. And because of that, my childhood, faith played a very interesting role in the fact that I was very torn and confused. The messages that I heard did not fit what I was seeing in the real life, family situations that I was going through, and so I was very torn.
So for me, I didn't grow up in a situation where there was no faith and there might have been problems or issues or things like that going on at home. I think I was blessed in the sense that I was raised in a good Christian home with parents who loved each other and loved the Lord and gave us a great example of what it meant to be a Christian. And so I think for me that influenced my life in the sense that from a young age, I had this real sense of God, His place in my life, and that sort of, I think, led me on my journey as a young man, accepting the Lord when I was about 11 years old. And then by the time I was a junior in high school, being called into the ministry, and really at that point dedicating my life to serving the Lord.
Church, I was very excited to go to because that meant it was the only day of the week that I got to see my mom. And so I saw it more as a family day than I did as church. However, I truly believe that a lot of what I heard at church, a lot of what I experienced, were planting a lot of seeds. A lot of seeds were being planted throughout that whole time. So then in high school, when I truly gave my heart to Christ, and I really, what I would say, was fully committed at that point to Christ, it was a result of everything that had led up to that point. And so the faith that I saw as a child, I think, just came to life finally in my high school years.
There's probably multiple people that I could give examples of how they influenced my life from the time I was a young person till now. One of them, and I don't even remember his name, it's horrible, but one of them was an elder in a church that we were ministering in. But I remember spending some time with this guy. He was somebody who just dedicated so much time and energy to prayer. And I'd never really met anybody like that. He was the first person that I ever came across who, it seemed like when he prayed, not only did things happen, but it was like God was listening to him.
Okay, well, that again is a complicated answer because I think there's so many different people that I would say have played a huge part of my faith journey. Anyone from my second grade teacher, who was an amazing teacher who really stood up for me and took on me as a project, I would say. But in that place of taking me on as a project, she taught me a lot of Bible stories. She taught the class Bible stories. I remember her drawing chalkboard drawings as she told Bible stories, like at Christmas and Easter and different times. She would literally draw these most intricate drawings on the chalkboard, and it was just amazing to me. But her faith, and watching her walk out her faith in her teaching and through her teaching and in her influence on me, was a very large part. But I think if I had to pick one person, it would be my mom. She really went through a lot. She really did. Her faith could have been rocked and should have been probably destroyed if you really looked at everything that she had to walk through. But through everything, she stayed very consistent in her faith and in her love for the Lord. Her consistency and her unwavering faith was a true testimony, I think, to who I am today.
Another guy I met during the same time in ministry was a missionary. His name was Charles Phipps. And he was the most down-to-earth individual I've ever seen in ministry. And he had a real hunger for people. And I remember talking with him when he would come and he would visit. He'd be on furlough and he would always visit the church and spend time. And I remember talking to him, and he was another guy that it was like, when he talked about ministry, it wasn't about building things. It wasn't about, what his mission was doing. It wasn't about the money that he needed to raise. It was never about any of those kinds of things. I just remember he would always talk about the people that he was ministering to. And he had this real desperation and hunger in his heart to see people hear about Jesus. And I remember just looking at him when he would start to talk and think, this guy's got something that I don't. And I wanted that, and so, again, just listening to him talk encouraged me to start seeing beyond what I'd been seeing ministry for, which at the time was more about the programs and the things that we were building and doing, and understanding that it had more to do with people and lives and souls being one. I think if I'm really being honest, on our journey as pastors, I think we've always wanted to be in with a group of people that we feel deeply connected with. We never wanted to be in this for any kind of a job or career or something like that. So, and I think we really found that here with LifeSong. The people here we feel very connected with, and one of the things that I appreciate, I think most of all, and I think you probably feel the same way, is the fact that I feel like I have people who care about us just as much as we care about them. That's not common for pastors to be in that kind of a situation. When you learn about the behind the scenes of most ministries and how pastors are treated by the people at their church and stuff, it's usually not a great story. But I feel like we're on the same level and on the same page with the people here, and it's really, for me, it's more of a family to me than I think I've experienced anywhere else. So I feel very blessed to be able to be a pastor here, and I feel very blessed to be around the people that we're around. What do you think?
I would agree. I think, at some churches, pastors can feel very much like a hired hand, which is very hard to really be a pastor, I think, in the way that God calls pastors to be, which, like Brad said, a family. You're just kind of leading a family, and I think here at LifeSong we're able to do that, and people have embraced us from the very beginning. They've been so open and so willing to share their lives with us, which we love. I also would add to what you said is I love personally how our whole entire family has been taken on and really embraced by LifeSong. It wasn't just Brad or I, but it's our kids as well. And our kids very much feel like the people at LifeSong is their family, but also they know what that means. They know that there's, 30 dads on Sunday morning who will call them out on something that they shouldn't have done, or there's 50 people that are there to say, hey, great job, good job, and they've got a million aunts and uncles and all that good stuff that comes with family. And so I think for our children as well, it's been a real blessing.